Next day, we get up at 3 in the morning, ride off, and we go down. And once again, no animals, but the whole day we're talking about how we're going to make the story mesh. Because this is the perfect story. We ride back into camp. And now we're even more quiet. And of course, the little pranksters come running up. What'd you see? What'd you see today? Don't want to talk about it. Oh, come on. Nope, don't want to talk about it. What maybe did you see? And I stopped and I said, you know what? We didn't see nothing down in that lower country. Nothing. But tonight, when I was riding back, I rode down that dark cliff ridge right there. And when I got about 200 yards above camp, see that? There was kind of a ledge up there. The moon's shining on it right now. When I led my horse past that rock, I found 2 of those tracks, that big, right on that rock. And you know what? It looked like to me whatever made those tracks was watching our lantern lit tents all night from that spot. And of course the boys, oh yeah, that spot? Yeah, that's, oh yeah, right, that spot? That spot right there, watching your tent. Well, then it was time to cook dinner. And we dispersed. And we got in the wall tent and we cooked dinner that night. Now, I had pre-talked to Dange before we went in the tent. And Dange says, I want to be the monster. Well, Dange is the perfect monster. Dange, you're it. You're the monster. Unbeknownst to us, Dange was going to get really into this because he slipped out of the tent while we were doing dishes and cleaning up for the night. And I stopped for a moment and Brock was said, you know what? I can kind of remember strange things from the year before in hunting. And I said, Brock, you remember a couple of years ago, remember when I shot that big buck and we hung him 12 feet in the air, and when we came out in the morning, half of him was gone? And Brock went, yeah. Well, at that point, I about died because this was unrehearsed. He wasn't in on the gig, and he's agreeing with me. And I'm like, he's buying right into this. That scared these other kids because he's one of them. So now they're all shook. And now, back to reality, because now it was time for chores. And I assigned Jesse first. I said, the horses have got to be watered before we do anything. Jesse, you go with Uncle Brett and go down and get the horses watered. I said, but remember one thing, a horse never lies. And if a horse, when he's drinking, if he ever raises his head and perks his ears, he knows something's out there because he's all about senses. A horse knows. A horse never lies. So off they went. And by the way, we said, Jesse, hold it. Nobody goes out of this camp without at least one person with a gun for protection. Of course, we emptied the gun and gave Jesse the gun, the Boogerman gun. And they went down to water the horses. And the horses were drinking. And then guess what happened? A horse raised its head and poked its ears out into the dark. And Jesse knew that there was something out there. And he had his gun up. He said, something's out there, Uncle Brett. Something's out there. Horses never lie. Well, good. It was all setting in. Perfect. Because now he came back, and now one of the pranksters, another prankster believes something's out there. We're slowly winning all the pranksters by deceit and getting them on our side, and they didn't even know it. Now, the nightly chores are about done. And now we're down to just, we need water, camp water. And so, I assigned the bravest of them all, Mike, because he was the one, whenever we told anything, it was, "Oh, bull, you're just trying to scare us." So I assigned him as the first guard. And then I took Cole, because Cole was one of the biggest, and I thought, yeah, let's put Cole in there because he's tough. Now we needed one more guy on the water detail. And I thought, I'm gonna pick Jesse. Even though Jesse's tough, the one thing about Jesse that blows his mind is ghosts and police. Now he's tough, but ghosts and police shattered him. And I thought, I'm going to assign him to that detail because if one bird flushes, they'll all flush. And now they went off to get the water. And all the rest of the kids and us were around the campfire, waiting for them to go get the water. They walked down the willows past the horses that were tied, and then they walked around out into an open moonlit sagebrush draw against the hill where there was a little spring. And in that spring, we had put a bucket down in the ground and had a pipe coming out so the bucket would fill with water. Well, it was a quiet night, and we could hear everything. And now, I'm going to go back a few minutes to the pre-plan. Because as Dange went out of the tent that night, he dropped 3 357 blanks in my hand. 3 blank shells to make noise, fake gunshots. This is important, 3. And he said, I'm gonna be the monster, I'm gonna be in the willows, and he says, once you spot me with the spotlight, he says, then I'll get up and I'll be up on the hill, and then that's where you pick up on me again. So we kind of had a pre-plan. Now, back to the scene that was happening. So, Mike, Cole, and Jesse are heading out into the dark with a flashlight to get the water at the spring that's out of sight behind the horses. Who would go? Would you go? Would you go? Oh, you'd go. Okay, Mac would go. Well, they went out of sight behind the horses, but we could hear them. And we heard Cole say, "Are you guys scared?" And Mike says, "I'm not scared." And they got to the water. But guess who was not with them? Because Jesse stayed at the last horse. Because why? Because he knew horses don't lie. And he knew he was safe by a horse. So now it's just Mike and Cole. And they're going, "Jesse, you wuss. We're not scared." And we could hear them talking. And then they got to the spring. And they started to dip water out of the bucket into the other bucket. And finally I heard Cole say, "Mike, are you scared?" Mike said, "No." But instead of taking forever to dip this water out, let's take the bucket and dump it in here and get the heck out of here. And about that moment, all of a sudden, Cole heard a snap behind him. And there was a full lit moon shining down on that brush that was just about 15 feet away. And Cole goes, "What was that?" And he turned to look, and Dange was in the brush with this on his head, raising out of the brush, with the moon shining right on. And Cole goes, "Hey, Mike, there's a deer. Hey, you guys, there's a deer up here. Another twig snapped. This came up higher.